Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1939 historical, biographical, epic Young Mr. Lincoln. Guys, okay, it's just a review. It's not going to be that bad, right? This is part of a series where I review all 207 movies that have 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I will give them all a score of 1 to 10. After I view them and score them, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the silent movie era of 1920, and now I'm at 1939 with Young Mr. Lincoln. This movie stars Henry Fonda as Lincoln, and it was directed by John Ford. It has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, 81% from the audience. This is in fact a back-to-back John Ford that I've done. Apparently in 1939 he did 2 movies with 2 different sets of actors that both got 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is the year of John Ford, everyone. And more to come. He'll be in other movies as well, but I just find it absolutely amazing that he is back-to-back, same year on Rotten Tomatoes. It's crazy. So in a nutshell, what this movie is young Mr. Lincoln has a grocery store, and he's basically the only grocery store in town, at least in the vicinity of this wagon that's just pulled in. It's a wagon with a family on it. They need different supplies to survive and different supplies to keep them moving, but they don't have a lot of money. So young Mr. Lincoln decides that he will trade the supplies that they need for a crate of books.
Blackstone's Commentaries. That's law.
That they have in their wagon. When he goes through the books, he sees that there is a book on law, and this kind of opens his eyes. It's something that he, might want to do in the future. His girl that he's in love with, she unfortunately dies of typhoid. He goes to visit her grave, and when he goes to her grave, he says, give me a sign that if I should do law, I have this stick here. If it falls your way, I will do law. If it doesn't fall your way, I'll go do something else.
Let the stick decide. Falls back toward me, then I stay here as I always have. Falls forward toward you, then it's the law. Here goes, Ann.
So the stick and the book both tell him that he should do law. So he opens up his own little practice in the town. It seems like he kind of wants to just be there for when people need him. The only small practice of law where people can actually afford to go to and get things done. There is a scene after this that's kind of a throwaway scene where these 2 people are arguing, and Lincoln gives them advice, and they're like, well, what if we don't want to take your advice? He says, well, then I'll beat you or something. It's a very weird scene. Not what I thought Abraham Lincoln would have been, but it's kind of a toss-away scene. It's not really needed. It's just showing that he is in the town and he's practicing law. Then there comes a carnival to the town where everyone is having a good time. They're all drinking. There's a lot of merriment. Abraham Lincoln is engaging in the festivities. He's eating in a pie contest. He is playing tug of war. He wins at this contest where he has to chop a log in different places. So it's really fun stuff. I didn't know that. I don't know how much of this is actually true, but I didn't know that this was something that Abraham Lincoln enjoyed. I just thought he was this really, serious, stoic guy who freed slaves and things. But apparently he did other stuff. So while this carnival is going on, there is a fight between 2 brothers and one gentleman who apparently they don't like, and they're all very drunk. The sister of the 2 brothers runs over to her mom, and she says, they're fighting, they're drunk, they're going to get hurt. And the mom desperately runs to save her 2 children. And when she gets there, a crowd has not formed yet. She's the only one there with her daughters. And the lone gentleman is killed. and we are believed to believe that it's one of the two brothers who did it. After he's killed, one of their friends comes in, and he says he saw the whole thing, he witnessed it, he has the knife, and but he's not saying which brother it was either. They ask the mom, "Oh, you saw it all? Which one of them did it?" And she won't say which one of them did it because they're both her childs, and she doesn't want to get any of her children in trouble. She doesn't want to single one of them out because she'll feel like it'll be like choosing between one of them, and she can't do that. So after that, this movie becomes a courtroom drama comedy.
Come on, we gotta hurry.
Who are you?
I'm your lawyer, ma'am.
Which I did not expect this at all. I didn't come into Young Mr. Lincoln knowing anything about this movie, just that it was Henry Fonda and that it was John Ford and that he plays Lincoln. The last thing I would have thought this movie was about was at the end a courtroom comedy drama, but it plays out very well. It's probably one of the better courtroom scenes I've seen in a long time. There's a lot of comedy. There's the friend who saw the fight and came in and took the knife. His name is Jay Cass in this movie, and there's a joke made about his first and last name because his first name is Jack, his last name is Cass. And there's a joke, and the whole jury erupts, the whole crowd, everyone erupts in a large applause and laughter. And there's even one guy who is playing the drunk in this movie. So every movie in the 1930s that has 100% fresh rate on Rotten Tomatoes, somewhere in that movie there's a drunk, and this movie has that as well. He is part of the jury. I don't know why Lincoln picked him as part of the jury. Maybe it's because he feels like he's just like a good old down-to-earth boy with not a lot of college education, and that's the kind of people that lawyers go for when they're picking a jury. I don't know, but he doesn't provide a lot of levity except for the point where he's being questioned. But I just had to point it out because every movie that I've reviewed so far in this era has had an alcoholic. So this movie becomes a courtroom comedy drama where each side is basically throwing sharp one-liners at each other. Well, actually, it's Abraham Lincoln throwing one-liners, and then Jay Cass ends up throwing a funny one-liner as well. And then at the end of the movie, they wrap the movie up in a nice little bundle where I'm not going to say who ended up being the murderer, but Lincoln is really the only one who's able to tie it all together, and he figures out who the murderer is, and then he ends up being like this big figure because no one else could figure it out. It wasn't probably who you thought it would be, and that's the movie in 5 minutes. So what did I think of the movie? I thought this movie was really, really good. Henry Fonda's acting in this movie is exceptional, but I would say that the mother of the sons is even more exceptional. She is fantastic. She is a woman who is just dead inside. She doesn't want to tell on one of her children because she's afraid that if she does that, then she's playing favorites. And there's really this push and pull of her inside where she's struggling with wanting her children to survive and then not telling who was the murderer and who wasn't the murderer. And then Henry Fonda does a great job with his comedy. And then at the end, when he kind of reveals who it was and like this, I guess it's like a Matlock moment or something. The only gripe I have about this movie is at the end, I could not tell you how they figured out who the murderer was. He doesn't really bring up any evidence at all, except at one point there's this thing that the murderer says that Lincoln is able to harp back on and say, "I caught you in a lie," type of thing. But a lie doesn't necessarily mean that someone is a murderer. They could be lying for all different reasons. But in this instance, he caught him in a lie, and that lie, if you just keep punching him with that lie enough, you just keep saying, "Why'd you lie? Why'd you lie? Why'd you lie?" Like an interrogation type thing. Then you will get the truth out. And that is what he did. And he did it when this guy was not on a witness stand or anything. He was just kind of standing there. So I don't even know if it was legal because he was no longer sworn in to, say the truth and nothing but the truth. But I don't know, the ending, maybe I'm missing something, and I would love for someone to tell me if I am missing something here. But this is my first time watching the movie. I was trying to piece together everything as I was watching it so that I wouldn't miss anything. But I mean, I was completely shocked and a little like, huh, at the end of this movie. Because it really comes out of nowhere for me. I mean, you can't assume that this person is the murderer because based on the proximity of where they were, based on what was going on, but it doesn't jump out at me. Like, it's not, even when I heard it was this person, it didn't jump out at me like, oh, okay, yeah, I totally get that. That could have been it. It's just like, it just feels like they were maybe trying to wrap up the story. It was maybe running a little bit long. They didn't know where to go with it. And they just said, okay, we're going to throw this killer in here. This is who it is. And roll credits, basically. So besides that, I thought the movie was really well paced. John Ford is a great director. I'm starting to realize that his movies are about America and about like things that are going on in America, which is pretty awesome. You know, I'd like a nice movie about American values and American tradition and American history. So that's pretty awesome. His directing is fantastic. What he does with black and white, with shadows, it's absolutely amazing. And then, I mean, who doesn't want a good, Henry Fonda in this movie also? He will also be in 12 Angry Men later. I'm sure he has a lot of other movies later on as well, but his acting performance is spectacular, like it is in every movie. And I don't know. This was just a really well-paced movie. Great funny parts in it. Didn't expect the comedy to be in there, and it was just a nice movie to watch. I give it a 9 out of 10. I don't give a lot of 9s or 10s because I feel like those should go to like the upper echelon of movies. But I gave Stagecoach a 9, and now I'm giving Young Mr. Lincoln a 9. So far, John Ford has pretty much hit a home run for me, and I can't wait to watch more of his movies. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.